Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of In the Corner. I'm your host, Cash. Today we have episode 143, and oh my goodness, am I excited for today's episode because we've just got so much good stuff to talk about. This weekend was one of those weekends where it just reminds you why you love combat sports so much. We had a lot of fights, all of the fights delivered. We're going to talk about Israel Adesanya, his very unfortunate performance against Joe Pyfer, and his fourth loss in a row, three of them finishes. It's rough. We're going to talk about what is next for him. Sebastian Fundora beating the piss out of Keith Thurman. We're stopping him in the sixth round, and then also Moses Itauma, just completely like showing he is like the reign apparent to Usyk. Like he is the future of the heavyweight division. At least that's how it seems. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the big fight that got announced today, June 27th. At the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, we are officially going to be getting Boots Ennis challenging the youngest unified champion, Xander Zayas, for his WBA and WBO super welterweight titles. Both undefeated, Matchroom versus Top Rank, live on DAZN. I believe it's the DAZN Ultimate Fight or a pay-per-view, but that's okay because dude, like this fight is exactly what we need more of in boxing. We know the negotiations had been going very, very well. Obviously, Boots was meant to fight Virgil ever since 4 or 5 months ago. That's the fight that's been in the works between Matchroom and Golden Boy. Matchroom has this, or Virgil has this whole legal thing with Golden Boy now. That fight's not happening. Virgil's going to be on the shelf for a while. So Eddie said, we're going to try and make sure that a big fight, like we promised Boots a big fight, we need to get him a big fight. And then Xander has just been looking for all the smoke. I mean, the kid won his first world title just about a year, or no, less than a year ago. He's won his world title. Okay. Within 1 year, I just woke up. Xander would have won his first world title in July 2025. He gets a good opponent. His very first defense of that title was also unification with Abbas Barao in January. Both those very good wins. Very impressive. And then June 2026, he's going to fight Boots Ennis. So there's a chance that within a year, Xander goes from contender to winning 2 belts by beating the number one challenger and then beating the champion and then also beating who everybody believes to be the best guy in the weight class. I mean, dude, this kid is really, really wanting to go for it, and so is Boots. I know people give Boots a lot of crap. I saw somebody say it took him 35 fights to like actually challenge himself, I guess. But I think Boots has had, the fights on paper that would be tough. He just beats everyone that he's fought, and it's not his fault. He's tried to make the big fights happen. He tried to fight Virgil, and it didn't happen. But regardless, that doesn't matter what's happened before. This is what's happening now. They're both in the prime of their careers, and I love that they're both challenging themselves. I mean, Virgil's not in this fight. Fundora just fought Thurman. Before that, it was a rematch with Tszyu. Before that, it was Cordell Booker. Like, he's not having the same title reign that Xander is. I'm so impressed with Xander Zayas and how I think that he's got the biggest balls in boxing right now because he's not wanting to do any of this ducking, none of this easy title defense. He's going for the toughest fight every single time, and he's staying active. These defenses are happening within 6 months of each other. And Boots Ennis, again, he's not having as close together fights, but he's staying active, and he's wanting to make the big fights happen. This is both of them headlining their first legit big fight. And I cannot wait for it. I cannot wait for it. I think that it's one of the best fights on the calendar. I think it's a 50-50. Obviously, you would naturally maybe lean the side of Boots just because he is a former unified champion. He's won multiple titles. I mean, so is Xander now, but you know what I mean? Like, Boots has had more world-level fights by far. But Xander has maybe just as much potential. Which is why right now it's early, but I'm picking Boots just because I think that Xander is not at his fullest prime, his fullest capability yet. I think Xander's going to get better. And if Xander beats Boots and then gets better, then what a true superstar. But I don't know. Part of me is like, maybe this is too early, but you could say the last 2 fights and he proved you wrong. But yeah, I mean, super impressed. I'm very happy. As for the undercard, lots of talks going around. Shushu Carrington says he wants the co-main event. I mean, he's from Brooklyn. Top Rank's now in DAZN. It's a Matchroom show, but Top Rank is involved. They're going to have a fighter on it for sure. It's a good fight. It's a good fighter to have in the co-main event. It really is. 2 world title fights on there. Apparently, he wants to be fighting They're talking about Venado Lopez, Luis Alberto Lopez, which, I mean, Lopez hasn't been at featherweight in a while, so in that sense I don't love it, but I actually think that's a very interesting fight. I think that would be the toughest fight of Shushu's career, so I don't mind it. I think that if Lopez is still considered a featherweight, he's still one of the top 10 featherweights, so I actually don't hate that. I would prefer Rafael Espinoza. We know that there was some talks about wanting to do that because that's just such a good unification. I think that is the best fight in the division. Apparently, there's also talks of Rafael Espinoza returning in July and defending his title against Lorenzo Parra, who is his number one challenger. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'd rather just see them fight because I definitely think Espinoza beats Parra, but if we have to wait more, it is what it is. There's also been, we know that they've been talking about Oshaki Foster and Ray Ford. Negotiations are really moving in a positive direction. We heard that again today. And that, it's possible that one could end up on the co-main event here. I could see that. I could also see them doing that as its own main event for its own card because I feel like that can sell a lot of tickets in its own arena, on another, just non-pay-per-view card. Like, that's a huge fight. And then also there were talks of Emiliano Vargas potentially fighting George Kambosos on here. That's kind of been shut down. Carl Moretti said that it's not true at all. I wouldn't hate the matchmaking. I mean, Kambosos is kind of on his way out, definitely, and Emiliano Vargas is really wanting to step up. I think it would make sense as a step up. It's just, again, it's going to be hard to get Kambosos to agree to be a B-side and a gatekeeper like that. But yeah, just so happy that fight's happening. It's exactly what the sport is about, and yeah, I cannot wait. That was actually not the only big fight that we'd announced today. Dmitry Bivol will officially defend his light heavyweight title against Michael Eifert. Not on the Usyk vs. Rico card as previously assumed and reported. It will instead be on an RCC show in Ekaterinburg, Russia. I guess Eifert is with RCC. I didn't know that. I thought that Matchroom had won the purse bid. Maybe I'm wrong, or that they had a deal agreed. I don't know why this is not happening on the Egypt card because I would have preferred it there. But I mean, hey, now it has its own event. Bivol gets to defend back home in Russia, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, it's a week later, so just more big boxing in May. And also, although my issue with it, no DAZN on the poster. I mean, it was just announced, and obviously it's not a Matchroom show, but I'm hopeful they can get DAZN as the international broadcaster, or at least somebody. I hope it's not like unable to watch. That would suck. Also, speaking of Egypt, it's being reported that Jack Catterall will be fighting Shakram Giasov for the WBA regular welterweight title in Egypt. However, now we know that both Catterall and Giasov have been in talks to fight Rolly because, Giasov is his mandatory and has been for about 3 years. You thought, okay, if Giasov is not getting his title shot, you have to think WBA is going to be something by giving him an interim title fight. There was discussion of Raul Curiel, them fighting. Instead, it's Catterall, who I guess is not waiting to fight Haney as his WBO mandatory. He's going to go for the WBA. And I mean, maybe they're expecting Rolly to get, for Rolly to get stripped, because this has kind of been the thing with the WBA regular title, particularly at welterweight, where the champions don't always last. And then the regular champion just gets upgraded to the super champion once, they inevitably don't keep on defending. I mean, Rolly won this title as the regular title. Then he got upgraded to full champion. And who was he? Why was he regular before? Because Boots was the super champion who won it off Stanionis, who got it by being upgraded. So this is just what they do. So the winner of Catterall Giasov will be regular champion, and then soon enough, Rolly will vacate or he'll lose. I don't know. And then they'll be, pushed up. The issue is that they're never going to be mandated to fight like the interim champion would. Anyways, let's talk about the fights we had this weekend. Let's get into it. Let's start with Moses Itauma. The Magnificent 7 card was just that. It was magnificent. Those cards always deliver just because you have so many fights on them, and it's always match made so well. I mean, I have to say, I think they did a good job with the matchmaking for the main event. This is the first time we've seen Moses fight an elite competitor going, longer than just the first 2 rounds. I know he had 2 6-round decisions early in his career, but I think that was just, I think that he could have gotten those guys out of there if he wanted to. He just wanted to get rounds. He hasn't been able to get rounds, though. I think he fought 5 rounds across his last 3 fights, which took place across the last year and a half. So he really, really needed to go some rounds. It doesn't look like he was trying to go rounds because he's still just so fast. I mean, he looks like a middleweight the way he moves. He's so quick, and he's just beating up Jermaine Franklin. Franklin was having next to no success, but his one thing is that the guy is tough, and the guy was not going down mostly. He does get dropped in the 3rd round, and you're like, okay, here we go. And then he makes it to 5, which is hard for people to do with Moses Itauma. But inevitably, you get a KO of the Year candidate with Moses Itauma, and the kid is just a superstar. I mean, that uppercut is just so clean, and then you knew it was all over. I know that Franklin's team was kind of protesting the stoppage. I don't know why. He was clearly out of it. Like, that was a very, very good stoppage. There was nothing controversial about that. In fact, actually, when he started counting, I was like, what is he doing? Like, when they watch that back, they should be like, oh, okay, yeah, he was saving him. I get it. I mean, nobody's ever stopped Jermaine Franklin. He went 12 rounds with Dillian Whyte. He went 12 rounds with Anthony Joshua. Now, I know, different kind of style, different kind of fight. Different kind of AJ in that fight, but still, you have to consider that when you go into these things, that no, they weren't able to really hurt him. And Itauma pieced him up. He lit him up. I love it. I love Moses Itauma. This is the first time that we've gotten to see him headline in the UK, and you see that he does have fans. He does sell tickets, and you can see him smiling. You know, it's the first time I've really seen him smile. I feel like he's always so stoic and like not impressed with himself. But here he gets his rounds, and he gets the knockout, and he gets the crowd going crazy. So I think that he's really feeling like, wow, I'm there. As for who's next, it could be anyone, right? I think we all are ready to see Itauma actually get in and fight with the top guys. Gustavo Oliveira said that he is going to, encourage the WBO to order him as the mandatory for Fabio Wardley, and the winner of that with Daniel Dubois. The issue is that Fabio Wardley and Moses Itauma are in the same gym right now, and they're not planning on fighting each other. I don't know if they're really good friends. I don't think that they are, but they are still in the same gym, and you can't really fight somebody from your gym. So I don't fully expect that fight to get made just because, it's Ben Davison and such. Thing that he truly wanted to fight was Filip Hrgović. Unfortunately, Filip Hrgović had a fight announced for May 16th in Doncaster against Dave Allen. Now, I'm happy that Dave Allen is getting a big opportunity. He's getting a headline at his home stadium. He gets another big fight. Unfortunately, it is just an absolutely ludicrous mismatch. Like, Dave Allen got dominated by Arsenbek Makhmudov, who is nowhere near as good as Filip Hrgović is. I don't understand the logic in this fight at all. Filip Hrgović is going to, seriously hurt Dave Allen. And, Dave Allen is just getting big fights because he's a big ticket seller and because he's a fan favorite. But, dude, these aren't competitive fights. There are competitive fights for Dave Allen. He should be in British title level fights. Why is he fighting the Ring Magazine number 4 rated heavyweight in the world? Get out of here. It's just ridiculous. And it's just a really poor mismatch. And now Hrgović doesn't get to have big fights because he's fighting Dave Allen. He could be fighting Moses Itauma. That would be the fight I would love most. You have guys like Martin Bakole and Zhilei Zhang who still don't have big fights. I don't think that they're gonna be matching up with guys like him. I know Andy Ruiz just got signed by Zuffa potentially, but I feel like he is the perfect opponent for Moses because he's a big name. He's a big name in America, and he's not somebody that's a huge threat to Moses right now. They still want to kind of protect him. So I think that would make the most sense, but we'll see who they end up going with. Frank Warren says he'll be back out in July. So, good to see that they already have another date planned for him and they're not going to have him sitting out for a long time. We need to see him back in the ring soon. He's got to stay active. That's the thing that he most needs right now is just activity. And I want to see him fight 3 times this year at least. And it looks like he will be on track to do that. Okay, moving on from there, let's talk about the rest of that card. And I mean, what a card it was. We'll try to go through it quickly because we still have so much to get through. But what was really the true co-main event was Willie Hutchinson against Ezra Taylor. Willie dominated Ezra Taylor. I think Ezra Taylor's really good and he has a lot of potential. This just wasn't. It just wasn't his. He just wasn't ready yet, And we saw a huge experience gap. We know that Willie Hutchinson is a very awkward fighter, and you really can never count him out because he always puts on good performances in these fights. And he dominated Ezra Taylor, and I was pretty surprised at how decisive it was. But you know what? Good for him. I do feel for Ezra Taylor, who's definitely very disappointed with his first loss. I think that the kid is a lot of potential, but it's just this is just a step too far too soon, I guess. And Willie Hutchinson remains like one of the top 10 light heavyweights in the world. I would like to see Willie fight Anthony Yarde next. That's who I said. I mean, I don't think Anthony Yarde is going to get another title shot anytime soon. I don't know if he's done. I don't think that he is, so I feel like that's a good fight for Willie Hutchinson. Also on the card, Nathan Heaney lost yet again to Jerome Warburton this time. It was very much a tale of two halves. Nathan Heaney won the first few rounds, and then Jerome Warburton, from the 5th round on, I gave him every round of the fight. Had it 97-93 for Warburton. It wasn't particularly close in the end, but you know what? I mean, good for him. He's, been a British level fighter, and that's what Nathan Heaney is too, but Heaney's the fan favorite and, lost most of his fights recently. So I think that he's like, I'm not done yet, but I've got like one more. So I'm glad that it sounds like he is heading towards retirement. I hope they give him the like one last fight in Stoke because he's always wanted a headline there in a big fight. And I don't know who there is necessarily that's a big fight for him, but I feel like he does deserve a nice fight to go out on. I mean, he sold like 3,000 tickets. His walkout is iconic. Yeah, so I hope that he does get a nice fight to go off with. Brad Pauls, wow, this is probably the biggest moment outside of Moses winning is Brad Pauls knocking out Shaquille Thompson in the ninth round after getting dominated the whole way through. I mean, I gave him like one round of the first 8, and most people gave him 0. It wasn't really close. Shaquille Thompson was ranked number 3 by the IBF. He's, kind of just the guy who's like, he's been the guy that nobody wants to mention. He's about to get a world title shot. If he gets this, he's likely going to fight Etinos Oliha for the vacant IBF middleweight title. That's what's going to happen. And, it's all right, well, this is his toughest fight yet. And he's just making easy work of Brad Pauls. And you're like, wow, this guy really is like a good kept secret in boxing. Like, he's really, really good. And then out of nowhere, Brad Pauls just hurts him, drops him, and then knocks him out. Doesn't knock him out, but TKOs him. And you can't really be mad at the stoppage. And I mean, look, Brad Pauls, this is what he does. He is the late man. He's the late stoppage. I mean, he did it against Nathan Heaney in really both their fights. He almost stopped him in the first one, and that's what got him the draw. But then he actually stops him in the 12th round of their rematch. He actually gets stopped late against Denzel Bentley. But I mean, yeah, dude. Like, and now where everyone's talking about Shaquille Thompson, he may take his ranking in the IBF, and he may be fighting for a world title next. When he was coming off a loss to a British champion. Or in a British title fight, like not long ago. So it's incredible. It's a wild story. Good for him. Very, very good for him. And I do really feel bad for Shaquille Thompson because he was 1 away. And he misses out on it. But yeah, what a fight. Liam Davies looked phenomenal against Francesco Grandelli. He forces him to retire after 6 rounds. They could run it back with Zach Miller, but I think that he definitely beats him. Another option is Nick Ball. They're in the same weight class, Davies maybe wanted to go up to world level. Ball just losing his world title. I feel like that could be a good fight. And then you have the 2 guys who kicked it off. Josh Holmes knocking out Alex Murphy in the first round. I mean, what a round that was. Holmes gets rocked really bad himself and then knocks out Alex Murphy. 1-round war. Love that. And then Michael Gomez Jr., he and Jordan Flynn went to war for about 7 minutes before Gomez proved that he was just better with the experience, and he stops him in the 3rd round, which was insane. Nelson Birchall won his English title in the 9th round stoppage. Decision wins for Adam Hamed, John Joe Kerrigan, and Billy Denise. It was a fantastic night of boxing. Speaking of boxing, let's go over to Las Vegas, PBC pay-per-view. And wow, this fight was not pay-per-view, really. Sebastian Fundora beats the crap out of Keith Thurman 6 rounds. I mean, dude, it just... Fundora, I almost feel like he needs to be forced to move up because he is just such an enigma and such a danger for this division. He's so much larger than everyone, but he makes the weight fair and square. So you can't force him to move up. I mean, but like he looks like a monster. Like seriously, it looks like Keith Thurman's fighting a transformer. He's just so much bigger. He's so lengthy, and he fights you on the inside. He's mean. He's a super nice guy, but he's a mean man in the ring. And Keith Thurman's never been stopped before. He's never even really been hurt like that. I think he may have been a little bit upset at the stoppage because he never went down, but you look at the guy's face. He was just getting beaten up. I mean, and this just shows, like, what did we expect to happen? This was Keith Thurman. I believe this was his 2nd or 3rd fight of the 2020s. He's been chronically inactive. I think I heard this was his 5th fight in the last 9 years. I don't understand how he gets a title shot off of that. But anyways, he gets one and just doesn't really look good. I mean, like, he didn't look great in his last fight. He's fighting an absolute monster. He's much smaller. Like, this was never really going to go his way. Fundora's a puncher. He's not necessarily a big puncher. Yeah, so I mean, I can't even really say I'm surprised. I'm glad that this is now out of the way because it took a lot of months out of Fundora's focus where now he can get into real fights. I want to see him unify. The issue is that he's winning at a bad time for the division where you've got Boots and Zayas just had their fight announced. Josh Kelly's apparently planning a July title defense, and I feel like that is the best option, but it's just unlikely. They're saying they want to do a fight on PBC still. Virgil Ortiz wraps up in legal stuff, even though that is the best fight to make. Literally champion versus is mandatory. That's a fantastic fight. That's what I most want to see, but it's hard to make. So then you're back to like, all right, well, who does he fight? I mean, it's looking like maybe Israel Madrimov. He does have a mandatory, Virgil's is interim, but his number one is going to be Bakary Samake, who fights at the end of April. He wins his fight. Maybe that's who Fundora fights. I really, really don't know, but I do want to see him in a good fight next. I really do. On the card, Yoenis Tellez beats Brian Mendoza. That's a very fun fight. Tellez got headbutt and cut badly in the third round, and it really seemed like he was done, but guy has got cojones, stands up, and goes the full 10 rounds. Brian Mendoza gets cut later. He also continues to fight. Two warriors. I mean, it was pretty one-sided in the favor of Tellez, and he's back in the big win column at 154 pounds. Maybe honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the fight with Fundora, just because PBC likes making their in-house fights. But who knows? I could see Jermell Charlo getting to fight Fundora. Unfortunately, it's just wild. Yuenli Hernandez beat up Taro Gaucher. I mean, he stops him in the fourth round, I believe it was. Kind of a controversial stoppage, just because Gaucher wasn't really hurt necessarily. He was just kind of getting dominated and was soon to get knocked out, it seemed. But I was not expecting Gaucher to be stopped. I said that, and I think he's a tough guy. And Hernandez made light work of him. He needs a title shot at 160 pounds. I want to see him fight Erislandy Lara. Hopefully PBC can make that soon. Maybe if Carlos Adames is vacating his WBC title, then he gets a shot there. I don't know, but Hernandez needs to be in a world title fight this year because he is potentially the best middleweight on the planet. Gergen Hovhannissian, fifth round stoppage for him over Cesar Navarro. I mean, Navarro's a very tough man, so that was a very impressive stoppage for him. Getting a spotlight on the pay-per-view. Elijah Garcia and Kevin Newman II was a fantastic fight. Kevin Newman wins it after a very motivational speech from Roy Jones Jr. that went viral. Really good win for him. I mean, Elijah Garcia is just always in. He's just not really had impressive performances. I mean, you look at his last three fights, he's lost two of them, and the one that he did win against Errol Spence, I thought was a big robbery. I didn't think he won that one either. So he needs to change some things. But Kevin Newman, I mean, yeah, good win for him. That was very impressive. And it was a fun fight. I know it was close, but I did have Kevin Newman winning. Then you also had Kaipo Gallegos. He went the distance in his first 10-rounder. He gets dropped pretty big in the third round. Outside of that, wins every round. Brian Gonzalez also gets a fifth-round stoppage in his fight, which was another questionable stoppage by the referee. But, yeah, good card overall. It just, again, it felt like this was a glorified PBC non-pay-per-view that you had to pay $75 for. Because, I mean, like, you look at this card, it's not even as deep as the Caleb Plant and Jermall Charlo doubleheader was last year, and that was a free card, and this was a pay-per-view. Yeah, so just wasn't really worth it. It wasn't. Talk about UFC, though. One of their best cards in a while. This is already probably card of the year. Seattle, I think it was 13 fights, 9 finishes in total. 6 fights on the main card. All of them ended in finish. Unfortunately, the main event broke all of our hearts. Shout out to Joe Pyfer. First and foremost, he looked great. I thought the first round went to Izzy. I thought Izzy, again, he started well, but then it's just like something happens. I think his cardio's gone down a lot, and I think his resistance to punch power's gone down a lot, where he gets taken down in the second round, and here's coming, and then he just gets ground and pounded, and he looked like he was in pain when he wrestled. It's just hard to see. And so, yeah, Pyfer's now going to get a big boost up the rankings. That's the benefit of taking big opportunities like this. He's going to go from 14 to 4, I think. So he's not going to be a top guy at middleweight, and he's got a lot of skill, so you can't really be mad at it. He's a really good fighter. As for Izzy, he says he's not going to retire. And I'm both okay with this and not okay with this because I feel like, dude, you can't fall into Tony Ferguson level here, where I'm like, you just keep on losing, and it's... But also, part of me is like, you look at Izzy's losses, they're in very good company. I mean, he lost to Sean Strickland, who was the champion. He then loses to who became the champion. He then loses to DDP, who was the champion. He then loses to Imavov, who was waiting on his title shot, who was like the guy. And then he loses to Joe Pyfer, who is a hot contender coming through the ranks. Izzy's next fight needs to be like against an unranked opponent, somebody who's not in, in like the prime of their career. I saw people mention maybe he runs it back with Paulo Costa. Because I know Costa's going up to 205. Maybe he comes back down to 185. You get a good fight there. It's not a huge threat to Izzy. It's a more adequately matched one. Because we just have to accept Israel Adesanya, maybe he's not retiring. Maybe he's not done. But he is done at the elite level. He is. 4 losses in a row at the elite level. You got to call it wraps. Maybe he can get back there, but I highly, highly doubt it. I think it is time to at least move on from that level of his career and just move into more fun fights, more legacy fights. Elsewhere on the card, Alexa Grasso, holy crap, scary knockout of Macy Barber. She snaps her win streak. I don't know if I've ever been as scared after watching a knockout than I was that. I thought that maybe Macy Barber was dead. Like, she was just staring blankly off. Some people are saying it was performative. I don't think it was. I found it very weird how they weren't, like, bringing her oxygen or anything, because she wasn't unconscious, but she was just staring at nothing. The doctors, I guess, wanted to just give her space. But, like, dude, for, like, 3 minutes, she's just staring blankly. I'm like, she looked like the lights were on, but nobody was home upstairs. Like, it was really, really scary. So I'm really glad that she's okay and recovered quickly. That was a terrifying knockout. But yeah, I mean, Alexa Grasso, man, like, we thought that this was maybe it. She's on a 2-fight losing streak. Yeah, maybe this is kind of wraps for her at the elite level. No, it is not. No, it is not. I mean, obviously, Natalia Silva is now definitely going to get the next title shot. There's no debate about that with Macy Barber losing. But Alexa Grasso was like 1 win away from a quadrilogy with Shevchenko. It's insane. Michael Chiesa, a perfect fairy tale ending to his career, finishes Nico Price in the very first round. Like, the first minute, taps him out. Now, I do feel bad because it was also Nico Price's final fight, and he didn't get a retirement package, didn't even get an interview, and I feel bad for him because he was waiting for one, and he also left his glove in the octagon, but he wasn't the name like Chiesa was. They did a really good job with it. Chiesa finishes his opponent in his hometown and kisses his wife, hugs his mom. It's just so nice to see somebody get to go out like that, like a hometown kid. So that was really cool. Harrison Douglas, huge UFC debut, finishes Julian Rosa in round 1. He looked fantastic. He just, like, so composed and calm the entire time, but just every shot he threw hurt Rosa badly. He's going to be a force. Yusri Belgaroui dominates Mansour Abdul Malik, takes his O, looks fantastic. Technical knockout win in the 3rd round. Terrence McKinney kicks off the night with a 20-second knockout over Kyle Nelson. That guy is one of the most consistently value for money fighters we have in the UFC. He has never been the distance. You know what you're getting with him. Just absolute war every time, win or lose, and this one was a win. So he's good. He's not great, but he's good. Tofik Masayev and Ignacio Bahamondes. My goodness, what a bloodbath. Like, that was the bloodiest fight I've seen in forever. I mean, the entire map was, like, dark red for the rest of the night. It was insane. So shout out to them, bro. Masayev gets the win. Just continues to believe that Bahamondes' kryptonite is Azerbaijan. But I mean, what a fight that was. Lance Gibson Jr. getting the first round finish over Chase Hooper. Who saw that coming? Hooper's second knockout loss in, like, the last year. Gibson coming off his loss to King Green. That was very good for him. Tyrell Fortune beats Marcin Tybura by unanimous decision, but Bruce Buffer announces it incorrectly at first, announces Tybura is the winner to bring Fortune back in to the cage. It reminds me of in Australia in 2024 when Shanika Johnson beat Nina Hughes, but then they had to re-announce the fight because initially they said Nina Hughes won it, but then they did go back to it. Insane, dude, insane. Definitely not the best moment for Buffer, but yeah, I mean, Fortune's going to take Tybura's ranking. That's insane. The heavyweight division is just so ass where all the top 10 guys are losing their rankings to unranked contenders, and it may happen with Curtis Blades and Josh Hokett next month. Casey O'Neill, first round knockout over Gabriela Fernandez. She's back after a long layoff, looked sensational. Navajo Sterling, second round finish over Bruno Lopez. That was very nice. And you kick off the night with Adrian Yanez and Ricky Simon going a draw when I thought Yanez totally won that, and most people did. That was a pretty bad robbery. And then Alexa Thenara, a very dominant decision. But yeah, very fun UFC fight night. Like, every fight on there delivered in some way or another. Awesome card. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, what a night for the sport, because you also had another middleweight main event and co-main event with the PFL in Pittsburgh. Good card from them too. Main event, Johnny Eblen submits Brian Battle in the first round, completely dominates and smothers him. Johnny Eblen was one of the best wrestlers in the middleweight division, maybe the best, or not, sorry, not that, maybe a top 5 middleweight on the planet. He is so good, and I mean, look, Impa Kasanganay as well. Finishes Dalton Rosta in the first round. Those two guys immediately threw down, went to war, and Rosta rocks Impa, and it's like, here we go. Impa fires back and knocks him out with one shot, puts him down in his hometown, knocks him out in his backyard, silences the Pittsburgh crowd. I feel bad for Rosta, but yeah, I mean, this is what it is. And Brian Battle as well, I feel bad for him in his debut. But I mean, like, look, the PFL's middleweight division is maybe its best. And you have 2 title contenders coming through. I thought maybe Impa gets it with just how incredible that finish was. But Eblen has one that's just as impressive. And now he is going to definitely get the rematch with Castelo Vanstinas. That's what fight we need to see. I mean, that there was, not controversy, but there was some, Eblen was dominating that fight until the stoppage. So you do want to see some closure on that. I think it is the perfect fight to make later this year during the summer. But then Impa definitely is the next guy in line after that. Also on the card, Ariane De Silva had a unanimous decision win. She looked good. Alexi Pergande, he keeps his undefeated record. Lazaro Dayron kicked off the main card. He was very impressive. And then you had some other fights that were pretty interesting. A lot of decisions overall, but I enjoyed it. I thought that it was a pretty fun fight card. Jack Cartwright and Alan Bacoso, that was an interesting fight. It was, again, a tale of two halves. Ernesto Rodriguez over Masayuki Kikuri. Dakota Bush had a good finish. Knockout in round 1 against Robert Watley. I had overall a fun time with PFL Pittsburgh. And then let's talk about Pro Box. They had a fun card. Brian Acosta dominates Ronnie Rios. Rios won maybe a round or two here and there, but I had it 99-91. Two of the judges saw it the same way. One had it 98-92 for Acosta. Rios is just kind of done. I think they said this was his last fight. This is his first fight since the Nick Ball defeat, which was a year and a half ago. It's definitely time to hang him up. But Brian Acosta was very competitive with Ramon Cardenas last year. He did get beaten. I think he got stopped by Suleiman Sagawa last year as well, but that was an okay fight at times for him. He can have some good fights at featherweight. Rene Tejas Hiron, he beat Malik Montgomery. That was a very fun fight while it lasted. Really close. I thought Malik was very successful in the rounds before the stoppage. He did get dropped in round number 1, and then round number 6 gets dropped again, and then they just retire on the stool, which I thought was very random because I thought that, again, like I said, he was competitive that whole fight, really. Even though he was getting dropped here and there, he was competitive. And I was surprised to see him just call it quits like that. But, hey, Rene Tejas he's a very tough out. He's a very tough gatekeeper, and you have to be very good to beat him. And Malik Montgomery is not on a world level like guys like Floyd Schofield and Rocky Hernandez are that have recently fought him. Other than that, Leonardo Rubalcava had a good decision win. He's not the top prospect he once was, but he's a fun fighter to watch. KJ Wayale, fun decision as well. And then Cooper O'Connell at a third night finish. Let's talk about BKFC. Briefly, another fun Mohegan Sun fight night. They're saying this is like one of their best cards ever. I don't know if I would go that far, but it was pretty awesome. Parker Porter stops Hayes Wilson after the third round with a cut. He gets dropped himself in the first round. They heavyweight war, like literally were just nonstop throwing at each other. That was a great fight. Co-main event, Pat Casey dominates Zeb Vincent, beats him 50-41 for my card, drops him 9 times throughout the fight, which is just ridiculous. Rico Disculo, he forces a 5th round stoppage, also getting like 6 knockdowns on the way. Harry Gigliotti finishes Timmy Mason after getting dropped himself. That was a great fight. Gary Balletto gets a finish after getting dropped himself in that fight. Very similar. Alexander Bio and Taylor Dagner go a draw, but they had a 3-round fight, and it was just a war. And Dave Feldman doubled their purses because it was so awesome. And some people hate on the women's division, but they showed, we got this. Joseph White upsets Guilherme Viana in the first round. Joseph Peters comes back from losing and stops Maurice Horn. Joshua Whiteside comeback KO after getting dropped twice in the first round. Seemed like he was it, and then he knocks Williams out on his feet in his home state. Like, just an incredible night of fights, bro. It was such a fun time the whole way through. Also, David Berkey, I remember he had a great knockout on it. I had a ton of fun with BKFC and all the other fights. It was a great weekend for combat sports in general. And we've got another huge one coming up. But we're not done talking about this one. Let's talk about the rest of the news we have. We'll get through it pretty quickly. Floyd Mayweather says that Manny Pacquiao fight is an exhibition, and it's not 100% confirmed for the Sphere yet. MP Promotions, they disagree. They say that it is a real fight. It's contracted as such, and that Manny is not doing it unless it's a real fight. That's what he agreed to, and he has no interest in exhibition. And that the Sphere is also in the contract. So, I don't know. It sounds like they both signed different contracts or they have different ideas of it. I definitely believe that Pacquiao is in the right here. I assume that he's the one that probably has the better idea of the contract and that they're kind of the promoters of the event. You have to think that they actually know what they're talking about, and Floyd is maybe trying to pull some stuff, as he usually does. I hope it's a real fight. I hope that Floyd doesn't now back out and say it's an exhibition, and if he does, I'd be really disappointed, but also not surprised. I'm excited for this, but I also said, I don't want to get my hopes up because it's so far away, so much could happen, and it's Floyd Mayweather, so we'll see. It already seems like the seeds are falling in for it to not happen, but yeah, I really hope it does because it's an insane thing to have them fight so long later. All right, what else? Errol Spence and Tszyu is reportedly a done deal. So we know that Tszyu fights on Saturday or really Sunday morning in Australia. And then after that, we'll probably get the announcement pretty soon of him and Errol Spence fighting. It sounds like AT&T Stadium is the leading venue. So it looks like we're going to get a big crowd for Spence in his return fight. Still kind of surprised he's coming back 3 years later, but I think Tszyu is a very good opponent to come back against. It'll be a tough fight for sure. I like that matchup, and doing it probably in June or July, I would assume. So probably that gets announced soon. Devin Haney seems like he's no longer going to be fighting Rolly. He says the money was not right for it, and that he should move on to the mandatory. Rolly's already signed his half. He was satisfied with it, but Devin Haney thinks that Rolly thinks that he's bigger of a name, bigger of a draw than he is, and Devin says that he should just go ahead and fight his mandatory because Devin's going to start looking at other options. Now, look, I love Devin Haney, but and I like Rolly too, but when you're looking at this, it does seem like Rolly's the guy that I would say is actually trying to make the fight happen. He already signed his contract, regardless of what the terms are. And if anybody's, avoiding this fight, it is Devin Haney after that. Speaking of that kind of welterweight love triangle, Ryan Garcia says that he is about to fight Teofimo Lopez. I wouldn't hate it. I don't like the idea of Teo getting a title shot off of a loss when there are guys in the WBC who kind of deserve title shots more. I'd like to see Ryan and Haney just run it back because we need that, but Teo was not at all competitive with Shakur, so it's hard to warrant a title shot for him in the division up in another sanctioning body, but I think Ryan and Teo is definitely a competitive fight, and Ryan wants to fight all those guys. He wants to have fought all the other guys, the kings of his era, and I think that he's doing that. So I would like to see that fight happen, sure. Also, speaking of welterweight, there was rumors that Conor Ben Regis Prograis was off. Prograis shut down those rumors and said, nope, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm still fighting on April 11th, and then they started promoting something about Conor Ben right after, so I don't think either guys are out of this fight. So I think those were purely rumors. My guess is that maybe one of them is injured. Some people are suspecting that Prograis is injured, but he's just choosing to go through with the fight for the payday. I don't know, but I am excited for that fight. It's just it just doesn't make sense for the $15 million offer. But yeah, April 11th, co-main event on Netflix. That is going to be an interesting event. Tommy Fury versus Eddie Hall has been made official for June 13th in Manchester. We talked about it last episode. Just an absurd fight to make. I mean, the weight difference, they're like 130 pounds away. I think that Eddie Hall is supposed to weigh below 240 is what I heard, but he weighs like 350 pounds right now, so he's got a crap ton of weight to lose, and that's what's making me think if he does have to go that low, I don't know if that's possible because he's going to, there's no way he's losing 100 pounds in the next 2.5 months. Like, come on. So maybe he's still way below like 320, 300. Maybe that's a more reasonable goal. That's still a big weight cut. I don't know. Knowing Tommy Fury, I would have to assume there's some kind of stipulation that he has to weigh below a certain amount. That's very misfits, so I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun to watch. It'll be hilarious, but not exactly a competitive boxing match like Tommy Fury saying he wants to go and win world titles. Yeah, that's not how you get there. Tank Davis is apparently filing a counter lawsuit for $20 million against his partner, who accused him of abuse and the kidnapping and such. I mean, I don't really even care that much about this. Like, I don't even know. Like, it's legal stuff, and I think he's all just got to get squared away. I don't really have a lot of interest in Tank coming back because I think he's got other priorities he needs to handle, and you can't rely on a guy like that. And he's also suing because she, tried to defame him and tried to ruin his payday, which I guess she did against Jake Paul. So I don't know, bro. We'll just have to find out who's in the right, but I tend to think that Tank is in the wrong. There's probably wrong on both sides, but you never know. Lester Martinez versus Luka Plantic. Apparently there's some talk about that being the return fight for Martinez in August. We know he's likely to fight in the same area in August. And Luka Plantic would be a good opponent for him to fight. It's a step up from Aleem, most certainly. I really want to see Martinez and Mbili run it back, but I think that Mbili is going to be fighting Canelo in September, so Lester should stay active, and he definitely needs to be. DAZN announced they're going to be in flight in 2027, meaning that they're going to broadcast their fights on airlines. So you'll be able to access the app like on like the in-house airline or something. I don't know the exact description of it, the terms. They like agrees with like specific airlines. I don't know how it works, but that is kind of cool to imagine. Like if you're in a flight one day and it's like, oh man, I'm flying during a big fight, you can just watch DAZN on the screen. That's pretty cool. Some other news, Iro Baraniewski has already got his next fight booked June 6th at the Apex versus Billy Elikana. So another bit of a step up, I guess, for Iro, but I think that he finishes him as well. He's one of my favorite rising guys right now, and I'm very excited to see where his career goes, but he'll be back June 6th, probably in a pretty good slot on that card. Greatest Krause is going to be headlining in the Netherlands again. On May 9th, he's going to be We don't know who he's fighting yet, but he'll be. We know the boxer will be involved with the show, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I just hope that he is in with a good opponent. I hope it's on like DAZN or something here. I don't know how it's gonna work, but good to see he's staying active. And then lastly, Francisco Rodriguez Jr. has been banned by UCAD officially, like almost a year after his fight with Galal Yafai. However, he's still fighting in May. Apparently, he's still fighting Angelino Cordova in the WBC Eliminator. I think the WBC should follow suit with the UCAD and also suspend and ban him when they did nothing. They took away his mandatory position, took away his interim title, and now Yafai is going to fight Sandoval. But, yeah, I don't think that he should be. I don't know, man. Like, it's just. I don't know. I mean, it's just messed up how these drug cheats get to, the rules change for everyone. Some people get huge punishments, some don't. And he did get punished, I guess, but he's already back in an important fight. And with one win over Cordova, and I'm pretty confident he does beat Cordova, he's going to be right back in the same position he was. But that's all I have for today. Very, very good weekend of fights. Moses Itauma is the future. Fundora beats up Thurman. Adesanya, 4-fight skid. And then you also have the announcement for Bivol's return, which, I'm excited to see him back. But I don't know, man. It's just weird it's not on that card. But Zayas versus Ennis is the future fight. I love that fight. That is exactly what we need more of in the sport. And I cannot wait for it. June 27th. Thank you all for listening, and peace out.